Welcome to another episode of Chat Sports Talk. You don't know, my name's Chad. Take a dive on sports. And welcome to the merriest time of the year, bowl season of college football. That's right. The bowl games are about to kick off on December 16th. This is the preview of the first batch of games. As I call it, this is my Bowl Mania 1 pick and preview. I'll go over a few games that will feature a majority of the teams that are in the group of five conferences. So a lot of these games may be overlooked by everyone, but I will give everyone a little bit of my attention and give you my picks. But before I dive into all that, if you could go ahead and give me a thumbs up, especially the content I provide, it really helps promote this channel. Please, YouTube guides. You can also subscribe. Love you guys review my work, and love you all for doing that. Now, me, you subscribe. This costs you a dime. Helps me provide more entertainment value for you. Like I said, this is the first video of my bowl manias. I probably have been doing 3 of these, and then I'll do a preview for the college football playoff championship game. There we go. A little word salad there. And we'll kind of, like I said, the early part of these bowl games are mainly will consist of a lot of the group of five programs, which a lot of people will really look at anyways, but here we go. So December 16th, we'll kick everything off, and we'll head out to the islands of Bahamas. That's right. The hometown Lenders Bahamas Bowl will feature the 6-6 Miami Redhawks of the MAC taking on the 6-6 UAB Blazers of Conference USA. Now, with both of these programs, there's not much to really kind of really talk about. Like I said, the MAC didn't have that much attention nationally. They didn't have any program out there that really put themselves on the radar at all. UAB seems to have a bit of a down year this year compared to last year. But UAB, I think it's going to be McBride's going to be the focal point of this offense. He has over 1,700 yards rushing, 19 touchdowns. And if the Redhawks can stop the running attack of the Blazers, that could spell doom for the Blazers. However, I don't think it's going to be the case. Right now, UAB is favored by 11. Not sure it's going to be that much, but I do think the Blazers will be too much for Redhawks, and they should win the Bahamas Bowl. And then the other game on Friday night is Duluth Trading Cure Bowl out there in Orlando, Florida, in Explorer Stadium, which is a soccer-specific stadium, between two conference champions, actually ranked in the college football playoffs. But we had the 25th ranked UTSA Roadrunners, Conference USA champions, taking on the 24th ranked Troy Trojans and the Sun Belt champions. This one could be an interesting game. UTSA always seems to find themselves in pretty good matchups and kind of battles very hard to try to help them out personally. Troy is just one of these schools that kind of flew under the radar this year because they played in the Sun Belt. Not much attention was given to them either. Same thing in Conference USA. And with this being looked at, I think, once again, I think Vital is going to be a huge part of that Trojan offensive output. But as the aerial attack by Harris and Roadrunner, especially if he throws it to Franklin, and Franklin's then getting 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns from Harris, which is almost half of Harris's touchdowns he's thrown. So it's definitely going to be interesting to kind of see how this dynamic plays out. Right now, Troy's favored by 1.5. As much as I want to, give a little love to the Roadrunners, but I don't see those happening. I think Troy has found ways to stifle good offenses and take things out. I mean, they handle Coastal Carolina pretty well. Coastal Carolina is a decent offense as well. And I think they'll find the right schemes to take out UTSA. But UTSA is definitely a program on the rise. It's one definitely have to look at. But I will give it to the Trojans. And probably by that, 1.5 margin. Then we had this Saturday, December 17th, and we'll go up to Boston for the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. We'll host the 9-3 Cincinnati Bearcats and the 7-5 Louisville Cardinals. This is a huge rivalry game, basically. This is like the old Battle of the Keg of Nails. So there's a lot of bad blood between these two programs in this aspect. And right now, Louisville's favored by 2. Um, if you kind of watch Louisville football, they have laid some eggs out there. Cincinnati's been outplayed before too. That's why they're 9-3. Yeah, I think Fickle's not there anymore. He's off to Wisconsin. So the whole leadership aspect for the Bearcats is kind of gone, but the core of the players are still there. So I don't know, but I will give it to Cincinnati just because of the mere fact of the players. Bryant over 2,700 yards total yards, and with over 1,000 of those going to Hudson. They don't put up a lot of points. I think it's part of the problem with this team is they're not very explosive offensively, but I think they'll be enough to get past their rival Louisville. Then we have to Las Vegas for the SRS distribution Las Vegas Bowl, which will have the 6-6 Florida Gators take on the 9-3 Oregon State Beavers. So Florida started with a Pac-12 school and then went in with a Pac-12 school. Now remember, they started the season against Utah and upset them. I don't see this happening against Oregon State. Oregon State is definitely a much better defensive unit. No, I'll take that back. They're not a better defensive unit than Utah, but they're actually up there in terms of defense. They have a very good offense as well. But it's just that Oregon State has put up with and kept up with a lot of the power teams in the Pac-12. So I think Florida's going to find themselves a little bit out of their element. I don't think a gator can survive in the desert unless it becomes a Gila monster. Haha. But I'm sorry, bad jokes. But we'll take the Beavers. They're favored by 10 though, which I think is a bit high. I will bring that down a bit. It should be probably at least a touchdown victory, but I will give to Oregon State. And then we had the SoFi for the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, presented by Stifle. Really, Jimmy Kimmel? But they'll feature Washington State taking on the Mountain West champion, Fresno State Bulldogs. This should be a good matchup between these two. Fresno State is a very good offense. Washington State's also a decent defense. And Ward, almost 3,100 yards passing and 23 touchdowns. So he's an aerial threat. But I think everything's going to be on this the feet and the legs of Mims and what he can do for the Bulldogs. And if he can crack the Cougar defense, there should be a long day for Washington State. Right now, Fresno State's favored by 3.5. I like those odds. I will take Fresno State in this one as well. They just played. They played very lights out towards the end of the season, right when they needed to, hit their stride when they had to. I think it'd be too much for Washington State. Then we head out to the Lending Tree Bowl out there in Mobile, Alabama, in a Hancock Whitney Stadium. We have the 6-6 Southern Miss Golden Eagles playing host to the 5-7 Rice Owls. That's right, 5-7 Rice got selected to the bowl because there wasn't enough bowl eligible teams to make it. And they're the number one academic program of those not selected, so thus they get the invite. So now can they take this opportunity and do something? Right now, Southern Miss is favored by 6. Sure, but McMahon right now is leading the Rice Owls, 2,100 yards passing, 18 touchdowns. Half of those goes to Rosner. If they find ways to stifle that aerial attack, because on the Southern Miss side, everything goes through Frank Gore Jr. and his rushing abilities. He has over 1,000 yards, but he doesn't find a lot of pay dirt. Like I said, Southern Miss is favored by 6. However, I think Rice is going to go in there and maybe do a little upset of their own and sneak out like a 3-point victory over the Golden Eagles. Then we head out to New Mexico for the New Mexico Bowl between the 7-5 SMU Mustangs and the 7-5 BYU Cougars. And with this one, I think Mordecai and Rice are going to find ways to shred at this BYU secondary. Mordecai has over 3,300 yards, and Rice has received over 1,300 of those yards and 10 touchdowns. So a third of the touchdowns go to Rice for receiving. We'll see what Brooks can do to balance the action for the BYU running attack. But I think that this is going to be more SMU. Right now they're favored by 3.5. I like that spread myself. And I think the Mustangs will be just a little bit too much for the Cougars. Then we have to the Frisco Bowl out there in Frisco, Texas, in Toyota Stadium, another soccer-specific stadium. They'll have the 7-6 North Texas Mean Green taking on the 9-4 Boise State Broncos. Both of these programs lost in their conference championship games, and should feature a pretty good matchup. However, this game has Boise State favored by 10.5. No. Aoun should be, I'm probably butchering his name. I totally apologize. Over 3,300 yards passing, 32 touchdowns. They have a prolific aerial attack. Boise State is kind of susceptible to that one. You look what Fresno State kind of did to them. Halani for the Broncos should be the balancing, the counterweight for this USA, over 1,100 yards on the ground. As long as he can keep going, it kind of, limit the pailing time for the North Texas, I think thing will be fine. I am going Boise State, but is not going to be 10.5. This is going to be a lot closer than that. So if you want to take North Texas for the points, you'd probably be better off with that one. But yeah, I think Boise State's going to win this one probably by like 3. Then Monday, December 19th, the Myrtle Beach Bowl down there in Conway, South Carolina, on the home campus of Coastal Carolina. You have the 8-4 Marshall Thundering Herd taking on the 6-6 UConn Huskies. So when was the last time UConn was relevant? Probably when Dan Orlovsky was the quarterback. And they actually made a BCS Bowl when they won the Big East then. Right now, Marshall's favored by 10. Francher's just a decent quarterback. LeBourne is going to be the focal point of the Thundering Herd. If he can just stampede his way through the UConn defense, he has over 1,400 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns, and that's the focal point. If UConn defense can stop the Marshall's running attack, that should be all right. But Marshall defenses don't push over either. They haven't been the same since they beat Notre Dame. I think they just used all their mana right there and had a long time to really build that back up. But with this one, I think Marshall's going to be too much for them, defensive-wise, offensive-wise. 10 points, I think, is a bit much. I think it should at least be a 7-point victory, but I will give it to Marshall. Then Tuesday, December 20th, we'll have to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl out there in Boise, Idaho. We have the 8-4 Eastern Michigan Eagles taking on the 7-4 San Jose State Spartans. And this should be a very good game between these two as well. Right now, San Jose State is favored by 3.5. This because of the aspects of Cordera is over 2,800 yards passing. Half of his touchdowns, I guess 20 of them, went to Cooks. But Evans is going to be kind of the counterweight in the Eagles' offense because he has over 1,000 yards rushing. But I think San Jose State's a slightly better squad than Eastern Michigan. The weather should play a factor, which kind of balances more for Eastern Washington, so that should be great. Once again, counterweight is all about balance, true balance. Sometimes you just kind of think Dallas was right. But I will give it the Spartans, but I think it will be closer than 3.5. This should be if you like these two squads, it should be a really good game to watch. Then we have to the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl down there in Boca Raton, Florida, in FAU Stadium. We have the 8-5 MAC champion Toledo Rockets taking on the 8-4 Liberty Flames. Now, right now, Toledo's favored by 5, and I can understand why, because they went into the MAC championship and just dominated. Even though they backed into that game, I didn't give them a chance there because they backed into it. They were just on a losing streak, but they turned that around and beat the Bobcats in Detroit to become MAC champions once again. And everything runs through Finn. If Finn could be effective with his abilities, should be no problem. However, I kind of like Liberty a little bit better, even though they stumbled at the end of the season. They did the same thing what Toledo did, just kind of fell backwards. So they fell into this bowl game. But I think they're just slightly better. Hunter, even though he's not a huge runner, should be effective enough. Douglas could probably be a key factor in the passing attack as well. Even though Liberty doesn't really produce a lot of huge stat lines for their offensive players, but I think they should be just enough to squeak out a victory in this aspect. And I'll probably go with like a 2-point victory, kind of upend Toledo's closing their season with like 2 huge wins back to back. Then we'll go to Wednesday, December 21st, and we'll go to the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. We'll feature the 10-2 South Alabama Jaguars taking on the 8-5 Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. This should be a really fun game between these two as well. South Alabama, just losing to Troy really kind of hurt their chances of maybe winning the Sun Belt this year. And Western Kentucky had a lot of great games. Just stumbled the wrong time frame, and then they tried to get in there, but North Texas just had their number and when they faced off, so that's one of the reasons why they couldn't get in. But Reed is definitely one of these quarterbacks I think is not being focused upon by NFL scouts too much. He has over 4,000 yards and 36 touchdowns, so he has a very prolific offense. He has a prolific arm. Corley is his number 1 receiver of over 1,100 yards receiving. Only 9 touchdowns. So he definitely knows how to spread the ball around, so he doesn't really pinpoint one particular target. It's the defense that's going to be the Hilltoppers' weakness. And Webb for the Jaguars is a huge factor in their running attack, over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. The Jags have found ways to make themselves relevant to a lot of the games, but they have kept games closer than what they should be. And this is definitely going to be one of these games going to be closer than it should be. Right now, South Alabama's favored by 4.5. It's going to be closer than that. It's going to be under 3. This is going to be a good matchup between these two. But I will take South Alabama squeaking out a victory against Western Kentucky. Thursday, December 22nd, we'll do the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl out there in Fort Worth, Texas, on this A&G Carter Stadium there at TCU. We'll have the 6-6 Baylor Bears take on this year's Commander Chiefs Trophy winner 9-3 Air Force. And this should be Champion should have a very good showing. This is a very good Power 5 school Air Force take on. They beat Colorado earlier this year, but that's not really saying much. I don't think Air Force is going to have much of a chance. They probably will stifle Baylor for a while because of that triple option. I mean, it's going to be hard to kind of pinpoint which guy's going to run the ball and score on you. Right now, Roberts is a leading rusher of over 1,600 yards, and that's one of the things that's helped Air Force, their prolific ground game. You wouldn't think that comes to Air Force with a huge ground game, but that's what they do. Like I said, triple option that the service academies run do give a lot of programs some headaches because they're not used to it. So Air Force will probably jump out early, surprise Baylor, but I think Baylor will find ways at the end to come back. Right now they're favored by 5.5. I think it's probably going to at least by a 6-point victory myself. I think Baylor's going to be too much for them. As much as I want pick my extended family members at the academy, but not in this aspect. I think Baylor's going to be a little bit too much for them. And then we had the Friday, December 23rd. We had to the Radiance Technologies Independence Bowl. We have the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Still love that name. 6-6 will take on the 7-5 Houston Cougars. Right now, Houston's favored by 7. Tune should be up there. He's probably not one of these quarterbacks. Put up the last stats. Probably, a mid-round draft pick when it comes all said and done. Over 300 yards passing, 37 touchdowns. His number one target, Dell, has over 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. So definitely a number one receiver. I don't think the Cajuns are be able to handle the type of offense that Western Kentucky can produce, that Houston can produce. And I think it's going to be Houston all day long myself. Right now, favored by 7. I won't be surprised to be more than that. I really don't. I think Houston has the ability to really put a hurting on individuals if they really wanted to. And then the final game I'll cover is the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl out there in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. We'll have the 7-5 Wake Forest Demon Deacons taking on the 6-6 Missouri Tigers. And for this one, Wake is favored by 1. They're pretty much saying this is a pick'em game. I gotta go with Hartman. Hartman right now, 3,400 yards passing, 35 touchdowns. Yeah, I know there's a lot of games that just didn't go Wake's way. It just happens that way sometimes. When they had a great year a couple years ago when they went to ACC Championship, lost to Pitt. And this year, it fell off a little bit. But Hartman still put up some great numbers. Like him and May both were 2 quarterbacks in the ACC that did really well. Just didn't quite do very well overall in terms of their team success. And I think Hartman's just going to be prolific enough to shred the Mizzou D. And I think it's going to be more by 1, but I am going definitely Wake Forest in this game. Where they'll go, those are my picks. I went from December 16th to December 23rd. I will get the other video out to you for Bowl Mania 2, probably around the 22nd, 23rd. That's why I went ahead and did those games now. So I didn't have to hurry up and rush through those games in the next video. Okay, give a little bit of leeway there. Especially you got that holiday weekend coming up, and it's going to be fun, full of sports action for anyone that loves any particular sport. And there's something on it for you. But hey, just let me know down below which game do you thought I got completely wrong in this early batch of bowl games. I'll probably go watch the Cure Bowl, just because I kind of like UTSA a little bit. Fenway Bowl should be interesting to kind of catch a glimpse of how that one kind of pans out. I see a picture of overhead of how the stadium or how the field's laid out on the field, and the green monster on one side of the wall, and it's neat to look at. But I think getting football games inside baseball stadiums are not designed anymore to hold football games, and into soccer-specific stadiums. I think we need to kind of start to shrink the bowls a bit. That's just my personal opinion. But just let me know, once again, let me know down below which game you're looking forward to watching. Once you're there, you can also click that thumbs up once again. You can share this video with friends and family. It helps pump this channel out. Once you subscribe, make sure you click that bell icon and turn on your notifications so next time I post any more content on my channel. And I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.